The battle on Naboo reached its climax when Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi faced Darth Maul. Although the young Obi-Wan showed skill and courage, Maul proved to be a formidable opponent. After an intense and desperate fight, Qui-Gon was mortally wounded. Under the weight of the loss of his master, Obi-Wan continued the duel alone, but was eventually overpowered. Darth Maul, with his double blade and deadly precision, sealed the fate of the two Jedi, marking a grim victory for the Sith. The Jedi Council received the news of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's death with grief. Amidst the sadness, Yoda, the Jedi Grandmaster, reflected on the greater implications of this event. He knew that the training of Anakin Skywalker, the boy Qui-Gon believed to be the Chosen One, would need a special approach. Yoda decided to take on this responsibility personally, declaring, "Specific training the boy needs." Yoda explained to the council that if Anakin really was the Chosen One, unique training would be required. He emphasized that the Force had guided events so that the young man would be trained by someone who could understand the depth of his potential. If the boy is to be the Chosen One, an experienced Jedi must be his master. His decision was met with some hesitation by some members of the council, but Yoda's authority and the gravity of the situation ensured approval. The reason Yoda was chosen was clear. As well as being the wisest and most powerful Jedi in the Order, his affinity with the Force was unrivaled, except by Anakin. With a high concentration of midichlorians in his body, Yoda was the only one who could understand how Anakin perceived the Force. This made him the ideal mentor to help the young man exploit his immense potential and, at the same time, avoid the dangers that could arise. The beginning of Anakin's training was marked by a deep mutual respect. Yoda knew he was facing someone extraordinary, and Anakin, although young, felt the responsibility and privilege of being guided by the Jedi Grandmaster. "Chosen One, perhaps you are," Yoda told Anakin at their first meeting. "Great power, great responsibility you have." The training began with fundamental teachings about the Jedi and the principles of the Force. Yoda devoted himself to explaining the history of the Jedi Order, its origins and the connection between light and darkness. Not only did he teach, but he also urged Anakin to reflect on what it meant to be a Jedi. "Understanding the Force is more than fighting," he said. This planted the seeds of a deeper understanding in the young apprentice's mind. From the start, Yoda focused on expanding Anakin's connection with the Force. He believed that, before learning advanced techniques, Anakin needed to understand and feel the Force in its entirety. Yoda encouraged Anakin to force the expansion of his connection with the Force with concentration, perception, and meditation exercises were integrated into his daily routine, allowing his connection to grow at an accelerated rate. Before long, his sensitivity was far ahead of other Padawans. Meditation was a central practice in Anakin's training under Yoda. For hours, the young man was encouraged to silence his mind and immerse himself deeply in the Force. This habit not only strengthened his connection, but also unlocked abilities such as telekinesis and premonition much earlier than expected. "Calm, power brings," Yoda repeated as he watched Anakin's astonishing progress. Anakin's high rate of midichlorians was a crucial factor in his rapid development. Under Yoda's guidance, he began to perceive the Force on levels that few Jedi could reach. In simple exercises, such as moving objects with his mind, Anakin not only performed the task, but also demonstrated a precision and power that left even Yoda impressed. As his initial training progressed, Anakin began to stand out among the other Padawans. His abilities grew exponentially, and he showed an intuitive understanding of the Force that seemed supernatural. However, Yoda remained vigilant, aware that this extraordinary power also came with risks. "Great strength, great balance required," Yoda warned, making it clear that the Chosen One's path would be both a blessing and a challenge. From the start of his training, Yoda realized that Anakin had an inherent emotional imbalance. The intensity of his emotions, combined with his life story, meant that he struggled to find stability. Aware of this, Yoda used specific strategies to provoke moments of controlled tension and imbalance, with the aim of teaching Anakin the way to rebalance. "Learn to control your mind, you must. In balance, the way of the Force lies," Yoda would say after each challenging exercise. Yoda not only identified the points of imbalance in Anakin, but also offered methods for him to reconnect with the Force. Deep meditation and breathing exercises were incorporated into the young Padawan's daily routine, strengthening his emotional system. As his connection with the Force intensified, Anakin began to feel a greater sense of balance, showing more self-control in pressurized situations. Anakin's emotional training was accompanied by an intensification of his connection with the Force. Yoda encouraged Anakin to feel and understand the energy around him, expanding his perception beyond traditional limits. This not only helped his emotional balance, but also enhanced his sensitivity to impressive levels. Feel before you act, Yoda instructed, while Anakin demonstrated steady progress. After solidifying the fundamentals of emotional balance and connection with the Force, Yoda decided to introduce Anakin to combat techniques. He began by teaching the basics, but soon realized that the young Padawan was learning at an unusual pace. Yoda then chose to start Anakin on Form 4, one of the most acrobatic and dynamic forms of Jedi combat, which was also the Grandmaster's own specialty. From his first training sessions in Form 4, Anakin showed impressive ease. The fluidity of his movements, combined with his high connection to the Force, meant that he assimilated the technique naturally. Yoda, observing his progress, commented, "Natural to you, it seems, but increasing your control will be even more important." Over time, Anakin's fighting style began to resemble that of his master. The very high concentration of midichlorians in Anakin allowed Yoda to introduce him to advanced techniques much earlier than would be recommended for any other Padawan. Even when he was still a child, Anakin showed the ability to perform movements that required refined coordination and perception. Yoda cautiously balanced the introduction of new techniques with moments of reflection to ensure that Anakin's power was used wisely. As Anakin grew and carried out small missions alongside Yoda, his ability began to be noticed by other Jedi. He often demonstrated capabilities far superior to other Padawans his age, both in combat and in his connection to the Force. On occasions, even experienced masters were surprised by the skill and maturity the young man displayed at critical moments. After consolidating the technical fundamentals of combat, Yoda returned to deepen his teachings about the Force with Anakin. He began to introduce more ancient knowledge of the Jedi Order, revealing texts and secrets that few had access to. "Ready to learn this now you are," Yoda would say, sharing lessons on balance, philosophy, and the interconnections that sustain the universe. Anakin's ease in mastering techniques and concepts made it clear that he was extraordinary. Not only did he assimilate Yoda's teachings quickly, but he also demonstrated a practical understanding that few could achieve. In real-life situations, Anakin applied his knowledge with precision, as if the Force itself was guiding him in every decision. Yoda, impressed, often reflected, "Acting through him, the Force seems." As Anakin's training progressed, Yoda began to reveal even deeper secrets of the Jedi. As the greatest connoisseur of the Jedi scriptures, Yoda shared with Anakin the most sacred and complex the Order could offer. Combining theoretical and practical knowledge, Anakin, still a Padawan, reached levels that surpassed many Jedi Knights. This impressive progress made Yoda believe that the Chosen One's mission was coming to fruition. Years passed, and Anakin Skywalker had become a young adult, almost coming of age. His skills now surpassed those of almost all the Jedi Masters, establishing him as one of the most promising of the Order. The time and dedication spent training under Yoda's tutelage had transformed him into a formidable warrior and strategist, with an unrivaled connection to the Force. However, Anakin still carried the responsibility and weight of being the Chosen One, something that continued to shape his journey. Yoda's emotional training and assimilation of profound techniques allowed Anakin to unlock parts of his dormant potential. Each meditation, each combat, and each lesson brought him closer to a full connection with the Force. This evolution wasn't just remarkable. It was almost frightening for many who witnessed his progression. His inner strength grew exponentially, and the Force seemed to guide him with a clarity that few, apart from Yoda, could understand. Over time, Anakin began to develop unprecedented abilities, such as an advanced telepathy that allowed him to sense the thoughts of others with impressive precision. His telekinesis, already powerful, now surpassed Yoda's in range and control. In moments of training, he could manipulate multiple objects simultaneously, demonstrating such absolute mastery that even the most experienced Jedi were amazed. In lightsaber combat, Anakin had become a true master of Form 4, a style that combined acrobatics and speed. Although he had not yet completely surpassed Yoda, his mastery was so refined that few Jedi Masters dared face him in direct combat. His movements were fluid, precise, and strategically perfect, showing how much he had assimilated and customized the technique. Anakin was an unstoppable force in training, excelling in every duel. The disparity between Anakin and the other Padawans, his age, was becoming increasingly evident. His disproportionate abilities and the depth of his connection to the Force made the Jedi Council reinforce the belief that he was indeed the Chosen One. "The conviction grows in me that the Chosen One the boy is," Yoda would say in his private meetings with the Masters. Anakin's responsibility was growing, but he seemed more prepared than ever to face it. Anakin also began to manifest an increasingly acute capacity for premonition. His ability to predict movements during combat gave him a significant advantage over his opponents, while his visions of future events began to become clearer and more detailed. These premonitions were a direct reflection of his affinity with the Force, allowing him to avoid danger and anticipate crucial events. During one of his meditations, Anakin had a disturbing vision of his mother, Shmi Skywalker, in danger. The image was so vivid that he didn't hesitate to ask Yoda for permission to visit her. Yoda, busy with an important council meeting on Coruscant, trusted his Padawan's judgment and authorized the trip, noting Anakin's determination. On arriving on Tatooine, Anakin met his mother near her old home. The reunion was deeply moving. "Anakin," she said, recognizing him immediately. After a long, warm embrace, they exchanged words full of longing. However, the moment of peace was interrupted when a group of Tusken Raiders appeared, armed with spears, with the intention of kidnapping Shmi. Anakin, now a skillful Padawan, remained calm as the Tuskens surrounded him. Using the Force, he seized one of the invaders' spears and deftly activated his lightsaber. The blue glow of the blade and Anakin's imposing presence were enough to make the Tusken retreat, realizing they were facing a Jedi. Without provoking an unnecessary confrontation, they left, leaving Anakin and Shmi safe. While talking to his mother, Anakin felt a chill run down his spine. Something was wrong. Turning round, he saw a menacing figure approaching. It was Darth Maul. The Sith, responsible for the deaths of Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, had tracked Anakin to Tatooine. Palpatine, curious about the young man's potential, had sent Maul to test him. Anakin sensed the tension in the air, but without hesitation, he prepared to face the murderer of his former mentors, who had been wanted by the Council for a long time. Darth Maul activated his lightsaber and advanced on Anakin, who quickly asked his mother to go into the house to be safe. Anakin knew that Maul's presence posed an immediate risk to Shmi, knowing where she lived, and the only way to protect her was to defeat the Sith right there. The confrontation began with Anakin attacking impetuously, using the agility and technique he had learnt from Yoda. Anakin's movements, broad and acrobatic, surprised Darth Maul, who soon realized that he was facing no ordinary opponent. Anakin's speed and ability to anticipate were impressive, allowing him to predict and neutralize every attempted Sith attack. The fight in the Tatooine desert became a dance of precision, with Anakin quickly taking control. Maul tried to use the terrain to his advantage, manipulating the desert sand to blind him and make it difficult for him to see. However, none of this worked, as Anakin was already one step ahead, using his premonitory abilities to anticipate his enemy's movements. The Force flowed through him so intensely that his reflexes and responses were practically instantaneous. After a few minutes of intense combat, Anakin found the opening he needed. With a precise blow, he disarmed Maul, causing the Sith's red lightsaber to fly into the air. In one swift movement, Anakin pierced Maul's abdomen with his blue lightsaber, incapacitating him. When Maul's red lightsaber fell, Anakin picked it up and, in a decisive act, cut off the Sith's head, ending the threat he posed once and for all. Shortly after defeating Maul, Anakin received an urgent message from Yoda, ordering him to head for Geonosis immediately. A Jedi rescue party was on its way and his presence was needed. Determined to fulfill his duty, Anakin quickly said goodbye to his mother and set off in his ship, aware that new challenges awaited him. On arriving on Geonosis, Anakin was faced with a massive battle in an arena. The Jedi were facing off against separatist droids in chaotic and fierce combat. As he disembarked to help, Mace Windu called out to him, pointing to Count Dooku, who was escaping in a vehicle. "Anakin, don't let him get away," shouted Windu, indicating that the young man should follow the Sith. Anakin returned to his ship and chased Dooku into a cave hidden inside a mountain. Mace Windu tried to follow him, but was stopped by a horde of droids. Although Windu's intention was only to keep Dooku under surveillance until reinforcements arrived, Anakin interpreted the gesture as a command to capture the Sith alone. Determined, he continued the chase. Inside the cave, Dooku watched Anakin's arrival with a mixture of surprise and disdain. "What are you doing here, young Padawan? You'd better leave," said the Sith in a warning tone. Anakin replied firmly, "You're under arrest. Surrender now." Dooku, laughing, retorted, "Last chance to get out alive." When Anakin activated his saber, Dooku realized that a confrontation was inevitable. Dooku, wasting no time as he knew he had to get out of there as more Jedi might be on the way, launched Force Lightning at Anakin, but the young Jedi defended it with the back of his hand, a technique he had learnt from Yoda. The surprised Sith recognized the mark of his former master and commented, "I see Yoda has trained you well." Recognizing that he could not win with the Force alone, Dooku activated his red lightsaber and the two began an intense duel. During the fight, Dooku was impressed by Anakin's skill. The young man's movements were fast, precise, and incredibly similar to those of Yoda. Anakin's connection to the Force seemed even more powerful than the Grandmaster's, something that baffled Dooku. After an acrobatic and unexpected blow, Anakin used the Force to lift the Sith into the air, completely destabilizing him. Then, with a leap, he cut off Dooku's legs, leaving him incapacitated on the ground. Anakin was preparing to capture Dooku when Yoda and Mace Windu arrived at the cave, witnessing the end of the duel. They found the young Padawan triumphant, with the experienced Sith defeated before him. Mace Windu, unlike Yoda, was astonished that such a young Anakin had defeated one of the Jedi's main adversaries. Although he was still a Padawan, Anakin showed that he was destined for something much greater. Handing Dooku's lightsaber to his master, he said regretfully, "Master, forgive me. I read his thoughts. He was your apprentice." "I'm sorry." Yoda, with his usual wisdom and calm, replied, "You did the right thing, Anakin." Yoda, proud of his Padawan, added, "As of today, you are no longer a Padawan. You have already reached the maturity to be a Jedi." The years passed, and Anakin grew in both skills and wisdom. During this time, he met Padme Amidala again, and the two began a secret romance, keeping their relationship away from the watchful eyes of the Jedi Order. Meanwhile, the Clone Wars took control of the galaxy, and Anakin played a central role in the conflict, standing out as one of the most skillful and powerful warriors. Throughout the Clone Wars, Anakin developed his skills at a pace that exceeded all expectations. He not only surpassed other Jedi, but eventually even Yoda in raw power. His ability to read the Force, his combat techniques, and his premonition made him a legendary figure. Wherever he went, his presence inspired soldiers and Jedi alike, cementing his position as the most powerful Jedi the Order had ever seen. Anakin's emotional stability was another aspect that impressed everyone. Frequent visits to his mother, Shmi, together with Padme, gave him a solid foundation of love and understanding. This family connection, combined with constant training with Yoda, helped Anakin find a balance that allowed him to deal with the challenges of war without being consumed by them. When Ahsoka Tano came along and was assigned as Anakin's Padawan, he found in her the opportunity to share his knowledge and experience. Teaching the young Jedi brought him the maturity he lacked to become a master. By passing on the teachings he had learnt from Yoda, Anakin consolidated his wisdom and understanding, becoming the youngest Jedi Master and member of the Council in history. Palpatine, realizing Anakin's growing power, tried to lure him to the dark side. He used subtle tricks, such as praising the young Jedi's potential and suggesting that he was more than just a warrior for the Order. However, Anakin, now emotionally stable and living a balanced life with his family, did not succumb to the Chancellor's manipulations. The fact that he couldn't read Palpatine's thoughts, however, intrigued him. One day, during a conversation with Palpatine, Anakin finally managed to access his thoughts. What he discovered was devastating. Palpatine was a Sith Lord. Without hesitation, Anakin took the information to the Jedi Council, which decided that Palpatine should be arrested. Yoda and Anakin, the Order's most powerful Jedi, were chosen for this mission. When they reached Palpatine's office, Yoda declared, "In the name of the Senate, you are under arrest." Palpatine, with a cold stare, replied, "Anakin, you made the wrong choice." Switching on his lightsaber, he attacked Yoda with ferocity. Anakin took a step back, positioning himself in the doorway to prevent any attempt to escape. The ensuing fight was fierce, with Palpatine showing impressive speed, even for the Masters of Form 4. As Yoda began to gain the upper hand on Palpatine, the Sith made a desperate leap towards the door, where Anakin was standing. Palpatine launched Force lightning bolts at the young Jedi, but Anakin calmly raised his hand and dispelled them before they could touch him. The display of power stunned Palpatine. Cornered by Yoda and Anakin, he realized that there was no escape. With no alternative, Palpatine surrendered. Yoda took the Sith's lightsaber while Anakin handcuffed him. Palpatine was put on trial and sentenced to life imprisonment, where he would remain alongside his apprentice, Dooku. Anakin raised Luke and Leia alongside Padme, while preparing for the future. He then returned with Luke to the Jedi Order. Years later, Anakin took over from Yoda as Jedi Grandmaster, leading the Order with wisdom and power. His story, alongside Yoda's, became the stuff of legend among the Jedi, inspiring generations to come. The journey of the most powerful master and apprentice the Order had ever known was living proof of the balance that the Force can bring to the galaxy.